What's up, y'all? Bill McNeil rocking the mic again, cold representing Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor. It's got the mad flavor that takes any situation to the next level. So when the party starts bouncing and the ladies start bumping, tighten up your flow with Rocket Fuel. Rocket Fuel Malt Liquor. Damn!
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we've got some news, some interesting news kind of coming on the heels of Diamond Comics, kind of slimming down a little bit of their operations. They obviously shut down their overflow distribution center near the Olive Branch in Mississippi. So they scaled down their operations, and we now know that one of the smaller publishers, an up-and-coming publisher in the comic book industry, is no longer just with Diamond. Now they have signed a non-exclusive agreement with Lunar Distribution to distribute their comics between Lunar and Diamond. I want to talk about kind of some of the implications of that, the effects on the industry. And we also know that Diamond Book Distributors, one of the, kind of a subdivision of Diamond Comics Distributions, kind of focusing on delivering graphic novels, manga, and other materials like that to but bookstores and places like that. Diamond Book Distributors are starting to lose a lot of their publishers to Simon and Schuster. So we're going to talk about that as well. And obviously here to talk to me about that is my good friend, Joe Corrala. He's an independent writer, editor, award-winning editor. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Obviously, you are a part of the comic book industry. You're one of the creators. I imagine keeping an eye on some of the minutia of what's going on with the business is important to you. Mm-hmm. What do you make of this agreement with Scout Comics, kind of going out there and signing an agreement with Lunar so they can distribute through both distributors? I think it's probably pretty healthy. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is going to start a wave of maybe some more publishers signing on with both companies?
Yeah, I would think so. I think, I know you've talked about this in the past on your channel, like, last year when, Lunar was really starting to rev up. And I think the real question here is more like, why didn't this happen even sooner than it did?
A lot of what I hear is that the terms that Lunar had out there just weren't all that favorable in comparison to what Diamond was doing.
Yeah.
But then, you got to kind of weigh things against each other. We hear so many stories about lost comic books, damaged comics, things not arriving on time. And when you hear about Lunar, things tend to arrive 4 to 5 days early. You don't have to pay for that. The packaging material seems to be much better, much less damaged materials. Also, they seem to have a better organization to where you get less shipments going to the wrong store or wrong materials being added. So yeah. I understand that Lunar is probably a little bit more expensive, but offering your services through both distributors, I think, is going to be very beneficial, especially to the retailers. Because what I understand, I think most retailers would rather deal with Lunar at this point.
Yeah, and since, part of why this may have taken a little longer is people may have been waiting to see if DC was really going to stick with Lunar. And it looks like now that they're going to be there for a while, and there's no sign of them coming back to Diamond in North America, at least. So stores have to have a Lunar account. They don't really have a choice. If you want to carry, if you want to carry Batman, floppies, you gotta have a Lunar account. So now you can start getting these, smaller publishers on board. And when you're someone like Scout, now when you're looking at it and being like, oh, what am I ordering from Lunar? It's DC and Scout. As opposed to Diamond, where it's, dozens of publishers are. Yeah. So it's like now Scout probably has a higher profile through Lunar that might get a few more, eyes on Scout than they would have otherwise. If you go to
Previews World and you look what Diamond's soliciting, it is not the easiest thing to go through. It's just as far as the amount of information available, which publishers are actually putting out comic books and things like this. As a manager or a store owner, I would not want to be ordering.
No, absolutely. And Scout does put out some pretty solid comics. My buddy Eric Palicki has Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists, which has been doing really well over there. So, if you're a store with a Lunar account and now you're ordering stuff from Scout, consider that. But yeah, they have a lot of other books. There's a lot of books that go from crowdfunding to Scout. So it's really building this, sort of indie network. So I do think this is a good benefit to Scout. I think if we start seeing that Scout's numbers may go up, if they're starting to report those kind of things, that other small publishers will take the plunge because it'll be worth it. I don't know what the saturation point is where you start dipping once you get X amount of other smaller publishers on board. But this sounds like a very smart move on Scout's part.
And kind of par for the course. They're kind of an up and coming publisher. They're not they're not really ingrained in the system so much, and they've kind of thought about outside the box before. We've seen the Scout vending machine for comic books, which I think is a cool idea to get that in some places. So they've thought outside the box before. But so the big hope is that obviously Lunar provides good services, Scout's happy, and then maybe some other publishers feel like they have choices to make where they don't have to stick just with Diamond. Now, I imagine a lot of people are like, well, Wes just wants Diamond to shut down. Absolutely not. I want a thriving distribution channel for comics to where they have choices, and I want Diamond to get better. And I'm hoping maybe if more publishers go over to Lunar is providing better services, that Diamond kind of has to up their game in response and kind of get with the times and start providing better services, less damaged product, and treat retailers better. That's the hope. The competition breeds that.
That would be great. I think a lot of people would like a healthier Diamond that is able to do those things, that has a more competitive outlook than it's had in recent years.
So the other big news that we have is we're starting to see multiple comic publishers are signing deals with Simon and Schuster. Well, there are other book publishers that have done that as well. I think the first one was Vault Comics, who I'm a big fan of.
Yep.
Also, who else did we have? There was AWA just signed a deal with them. They've also got quite a few other distribution deals with Ahoy Comics, Boom Studios, Inside Editions, Legendary Comics, ONI Press Rebellion, SourcePoint, Viz Media. So lots of different smaller publishers are kind of moving over to Simon & Schuster. It kind of makes sense in competition with Diamond Books Distribution, which primarily deals with the book market. Obviously, bookstores rather than the direct market. This probably doesn't bode well for Diamond either. The book industry is a little bit different. A lot of the book publishers themselves have their own distribution.
Yeah.
Obviously, the comic book publishers themselves don't seem to have that. But kind of moving over to Simon & Schuster, that certainly has inroads to all these big box chains and all these specialty bookstores. And it's more like in their lane as far as what they do as their core competencies. Providing more competition for Diamond. Do you see this could only be good, right? As far as competition.
Yeah, this is more of a situation where I think if you're going to see Diamond fold an element of its business, it might be Diamond Books as opposed to the direct market floppies, because these are, major publishers all going through Simon & Schuster and Penguin Random House and places like that. So, we'll see. I mean, Diamond Books for a while, since they were a smaller, venue, they were appealing to a lot of smaller publishers with the idea of like, look, we have, we specialize in comics, graphic novels, things like that. We're going to give you the attention and customer service that bigger distributors like Penguin and Simon and Schuster can't.
We know your product. We're going to be able the ones to get the word out there, right?
Yeah, and and I recall other smaller publishers, even some of the ones listed, previously being exclusive with Diamond Books and making that a big deal a couple of years ago. But with everything that happened, it just it makes more sense to go perhaps to a place like Simon and Schuster. And I think one of the keys here is one of their clients is also Viz Media. And Viz Media through Simon and Schuster, I mean, there isn't a higher selling graphic novel chain with the between My Hero Academia and One Piece. Yeah. Forget it. Like there.
And that's one of the kind of fallouts that's got to be concerning for Diamond. I imagine we're seeing tremendous growth in the comic book industry. Unfortunately, it's outside of what they're specializing, where they're the big fish in a small pond. It's happening where they're the small fish in a big pond, and they're starting to lose ground to some of these more established publishers. And I'm sure that Simon and Schuster and Penguin Random House are looking at the numbers and they're seeing, well, we're seeing across the board 30% growth, from 2020 to 2021 so far. But in graphic novels, it's 110%. That's massive growth. We need to, kind of get in there. They're probably offering better terms of service to some of these smaller publishers because, when you look at even the comic book publishers that are putting out the graphic novels, it's not like Image and Boom and some of these other publishers aren't competitive with DC and Marvel on that stage.
Yeah, it's a
different game.
No, absolutely. There are small exceptions in terms of Three Jokers that's selling gangbusters. Watchmen still sells gangbusters. There's a few other books, but when you look overall, it's anything from Viz Media, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of manga that doesn't move. There's plenty of manga that people aren't interested in. It just so happens that they have a ton of properties that people really, really dig, and they sell so well that it's no contest.
Yeah, but even just looking at the Western comic books, Saga, Walking Dead, March, that George Takei, They Called Us Enemy graphic novels, those are competitive with anything DC puts out or Marvel.
Oh yeah, I mean, all of that stuff sells, even better than most of the stuff, certainly in trades. Whereas Saga floppies are kind of middle of the road, in term. I mean,
not at
they
the
would
end.
have been
They were up in the top 10 at the end.
Yeah,
they went on hiatus.
They would have been middle of the road 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But they're in for most of the run later on, before the hiatus announcement, all that, in that 40, 50,000 range, which now would be, a top 25 comic, top 30, something like that. But the trades are just evergreen. Yes. Same thing with Walking Dead. I mean, Walking Dead, I'm pretty sure for Image was one of the first Image books that they decided they were going to stop doing the $9.99 first volume trade and just made it $14.99 because they were people,
because they could.
Yeah, they could. People were going to buy it. Exactly.
Well, one of the things that we see with we see Netflix and some of these other streaming companies, they go out there, they acquire the rights to some of these kind of better known graphic novel or series that are on the indie scene. And you know what happens once that series comes out and it hits, like Umbrella Academy, boom, the sales for those graphic novels go up and they stay up for quite some time during the run of those series. So,
yeah, I think that's also part of the puzzle why, people, including myself, get annoyed sometimes when you see these articles that are Netflix options such and such, indie title. And you always think to yourself, every other book gets optioned. It's like, talk to me when it's actually like being filmed and coming out. But the reality is, there is still a speculator market. There are still people who do that, and then there are also just people. They're not speculators. It's kind of a mix in the book market. It's the same thing when they announce that they're going to make a movie or a show on a prose novel. You also get the same kind of jump. There are readers out there who look for recommendations, and when they see something like Umbrella Academy is going to be a show, they look at that as a recommendation, and then they go out and they buy the book.
Yeah. So it's an interesting world. Things are definitely developing rapidly. Mm-hmm. Just 1 year ago, Diamond was essentially a monopoly.
Yeah.
And now we have new distribution. We finally have someone besides DC going over with Lunar. I think competition will be healthy for the market, much better for retailers and customers as far as getting less damaged product, more product on time, things of that nature. And it definitely feels like Diamond is losing some inroads and some traction that they had in the book market. Kind of makes sense as we see these things expand, the numbers go up. The graphic novel, genre, the sales are going up. And I'm not surprised Simon and Schuster, Penguin Random House, some of these big publishers are starting to put an eye over to some interesting graphic novel publishing comic publishers. So we shall see what happens. Joe, I'll let you have the last word on this as far as what we can expect for Diamond in the future.
This may be Diamond's Daredevil Born Again. They may be down and out, but maybe they come back stronger than ever. Who knows?
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.